Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Mortgage Heroes Weekly Podcast. I'm Andy.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Will.
Well, we are back again with another show, guys. And, you know, starting the year off with the fires was honestly not my first choice. That was a little bit rough, but, you know, the problems continue. So we're going to start there again today because it's not only just a hot topic, but, you know, we're starting to see some of the best in people and also some of the worst. Yeah. So we're going to go right from the top today and talk about rent spikes in Los Angeles. You have thousands of displaced people. You have lots of I shouldn't say lots. You have places that were available on the market already that all of a sudden now have a different price tag than they did a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And then you have some people that are just overtly, completely sidestepping the rules for rent gouging and just putting whatever they want with kind of like they don't think there's going to be any recourse.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that we're starting with this subject. Obviously, it's a touchy subject. Them being our neighbors here, me being born in LA and being an LA boy and most of my family being over there, it's of concern, everything that's going on. So I'm just glad that we're touching on this. And it's very important for people to know what rules, regulations they can follow or just where to get the proper help. So I'm glad that we're starting here.
Yeah. So here's the article title today, guys. You have Los Angeles landlords jack up rent by as much as 124%, flouting price gouging laws during deadly wildfires, coming in from the New York Post. So the law, as written in the article, is landlords are not permitted to raise the price of housing by more than 10% after a state of emergency has been declared, which there's been a state of emergency declared for Los Angeles.
Right.
Yet, you still have people surpassing that threshold easily by hundreds of listings, just by one survey alone, by this one, I'm not going to say her name, but this one person who was surveyed for this or interviewed for this article, in her review of more than 400 listings, found almost 100 that had rents raised beyond the 10% threshold.
Yeah. No, this is crazy. I mean, I like right here, one of the cases, right? In one extreme case, a 5-bedroom home in Santa Monica listed at $12,500 per month last February 2024 was destroyed in the wildfires. February 24 was recently relisted for $28,000.
Can you imagine? First of all, let's talk about $12,500 a month for renting a house.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 150 G's a year.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, and then now you're talking about $28,000 a month. That's
unreal.
Insane.
You know, it's crazy. The big corporations like Airbnb I saw were offering, you know, free stays in certain locations or certain spots that they had availability in. And you would think big corporations would be the ones that, you know, go in and, you know, spike the prices up. But it's regular people that, you know, see an opportunity and say, hey, well, shoot, if everyone's doing it, I might do it as well. But they did mention in the article that they are going to find, you know, these people, they are going to run reports and they are going to, you know, basically make sure that they, you know, do abide by the law or, you know, provide those repercussions, because that is just, honestly, it's like just priding on people's, like, you know, misfortunes.
Now, I think one of the things that's going to get people caught here is if they already had the listing listed and marketed, and then they try to spike it, that could have one recourse. But I think, honestly, where someone's going to, I'll say, get away with it, for lack of a better term, is they're going to put their house for rent February 1st.
Yeah.
It's upcoming that they're going to have a rental, and now they can go right to what that, let's say, new market rate is.
Yeah.
That's $3,000 more, $5,000, $7,000 more a month, because also, take a step back. Everyone that's displaced, how long are they going to be displaced for?
Exactly.
How long?
Three
years?
3 years, and that's
5
very,
years?
very, very lucky if it is 3 years.
I really think we should put a poll out there, Andy.
Let's do it.
How long is it going to take to actually rebuild this? Is it going to take like 3 years, 5 years, 7, 10 years to rebuild it? And we're talking about in some of these homes are worth millions. So I would say anything that a house is going to be rebuilt $5, $10, $20 million, it's going to take at least anywhere from 8 to 10 years to rebuild that thing.
One of the primary things I'm hearing already is that there's no sense right now of what the timeline is for the utilities to even get fixed, or let's say modernized to what they're going to need to be for whatever's going to replace that.
Yeah.
How long is that going to take?
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that coin is some of these homeowners that do have policies. Their policy has a limit for how long the policy will cover their rent. And some of those people are going to have it for up to 3 years, which sounds great. Oh, wow, 3 years of rent cover. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But what if it takes longer, like 5? Now what do you do? What do you do if you still had a mortgage on that place and you're paying? Are you going to have mortgage payments suspended on that place and you have rental? This is getting very complicated very quickly.
Unfortunately, I feel it's going to push people that eventually they're going to run out of resources, and the only option is going to be I'm going to have to sell the land that I have to be able to just stay afloat. Because if eventually the money runs out for their insurance, I mean they're also paying a crazy amount in rent. Like how long can they keep paying both payments for?
Yeah. That's going to be crazy.
Time bomb.
So we do have real estate professionals and housing advocates kind of urging authorities to enforce the law a little bit more aggressively here, which, whether they're just saying that it's surface value or not is not my point in bringing this up. It's going to be necessary. I also understand that there will be people with means that they may not care. They may actually not care. There will be some that just on the principle itself will say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I could pay $12,000 a month, but I'm not going to because you're gouging. But then that house is going to go to someone else who's like, I don't care. I don't give a rip, and I can pay it, and I'm going to.
And they're doing it.
And they are.
One of the things I also saw, again, kind of connected to this article, but more on the social media side, was some people, they're actively making choices now based on that 3 or 5 year time frame, based on school.
Oh, yeah.
Because, my kid's school isn't there anymore, and maybe it won't be back by 3 or 5 years. So my 10-year-old now is going to be 15. They're going to be in high school now. So hold on. Now I'm going to actually just maybe go look into the neighborhood that I'm going to move into for the high school that they're going to go to, because now they have to go there versus the one or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's only one example, but there's going to be, I don't know how many other examples like that.
My goodness.
I mean, again, not to espouse the complications of this, but the number of variables that people are now considering is dramatically increased just in the first week and a half, 2 weeks of this.
Yeah, it's devastating. I mean, this is just unreal. And I just think, the Attorney General speaking here, by the time they get to all these people that are price gouging, well, you know how much time it's going to take to get these guys to? It can take several years. And then once it's done, they can just not even look into it. So who knows? Right. So I think that's where the regular people are just going to be taking advantage of the situation, thinking I'll get away with it. And they may very well, it may very well happen. Mm-hmm. Again, we don't have all the resources out there, especially when now we're talking about rebuilding and we're getting, the World Cup coming over here. You have Olympics coming up. Like, come on, guys. Like, there's a lot that's going to go on. And if people are price gouging, I think that's not going to be one of the priorities. So,
I mean, you saw Gavin Newsom's video of him being all happy, saying that they're in talks of, making stuff happen. Dude. I mean, the guy looked diabolical when he was just.
How was that? Yeah, was he doing the shoulders on the camera?
Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Talk straight. You're a political leader.
That was very odd. Yeah, to see someone trying to make a public statement, answering the question, but also just being all like, oh, wiggly. I don't like automatically. I'm like, dude, what is happening right now?
You know when you're excited about something, you're trying to tell someone, and you're like, you can't hold it in.
Let me ask you a question. If I walked into one of your offices and you guys asked me a question, and I started going, well, guys, I just think that maybe the thing we need to do, you'd be like, that guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. You would look at me that way right away.
Andy, first of all, why are you shimmy?
Yeah, what's up with the shoulder business?
Yeah, that's just going to take us in a whole different direction there.
No, it's a bad moment for sure. Whether you like Gavin Newsom or hate him, I honestly don't really care.
Yeah,
the point is, it's just the optics looked really bad and really weird.
I mean, it's out in the internet. People can make their own opinion about it. I think.
Question to you, Brian. Yeah. What would you suggest people to do before they find a rental?
Weigh out their options. I mean, if in these next couple of years you have a stable job, you don't have a stable job, a lot of people are going to say, heck, this is my opportunity to book it out of here. I don't have anything. I could literally leave the state. So I think it's more about, really assessing all your options, whether it's with your family being here. Do you have kids that are young? Do you have kids that are older? Are you older? Are you mid-age? Are your kids, It all really depends on what case, what hand you were dealt. So it really depends, but I think it goes based off what your life and your family needs are. That's going to be the first thing people are going to look at.
What about you, Andy? Like, somebody's going to get price gouged. What would you advise them to do before they go into this new rental?
I think that you need to be very conservative in your decision making. That's my personal choice, because if I were to put myself in that situation and I have to consider whether I go back or I don't go back, I rebuild or I don't rebuild, or I wait for a developer to build and I try to go rebuy back in the same neighborhood, or whatever version of that's going to look, I have to take a 5-year outlook. Now, the other thing too is that there's people whose not only their house is there, but their work was there too. And that's a whole different situation. And you got the school situation too. So if I were making the conscious choice that I want to stay in Los Angeles for either my work or my just personal preference, then I'm trying to find a place as quickly as I can that's within my means while all these uncertainties get certaintied.
Yeah. And that's what
how about you?
And that's what I'm saying. What I'm looking at is going more towards what this article's talking about, the price gouging of people. You know, what I would do is I'd go to like Redfin, Zillow, places like that you're going to see and try to go back like a couple of months to see what the rental market really is, right?
Good point.
Before you actually go out there and just make the true decision whether you think this is, like in this case, 12,500 to 28,000, right? Well, where do you get this information? You got to go out there and really look. You know, and so one of the things is that's a great point to go Zillow, Redfin, go talk to a property management, a reputable property management company that can really put you in the best place where now you won't be taken advantage of. So that's what I'm looking at. If I'm being displaced and obviously there's nothing, where do I go? What do I do? That would be my first thing is, you know, Zillow, Redfin, property management, just to have a better understanding.
That's a great point you bring up.
Great point. And something I maybe we didn't mention this as obviously as we could have, but there are some people that where their neighborhood was burned down, they were the renter already, and so they're just going to go rent somewhere else. But for the people that are homeowners looking to rent, that, you know, that can emotionally feel like a big step down, if you will. Just from, look, hey, I've owned my house for 20 years, 30 years, or maybe my house was paid off, or even if I had a loan, like, oh man, I got to be a renter again. Like, there's got to be a psychological impact to that. And I really hadn't considered that. I know I didn't mention it, but I really hadn't really considered it until I was listening to you say, yeah, go research and find a property manager. I'm like, man, these people, they haven't had to do this.
Exactly.
It's a brand new situation for some of these people that, well, brand new in the sense that they haven't done it for 20 years in some cases. That's going to be possibly a burden to have to overcome.
Yeah. Even like elderly people too that are just like, you know, not up to date with technology and stuff, like they're just completely misplaced.
Well, hopefully they have grandkids, they have children that can point them in the right direction, you know. We already know, like in the Palisades area, there's not many homes that were available, you know, on the market, right? And a lot of people lived there for many years, 50 plus years. Their homes already paid off. I heard a story where one of the owners, actually their insurance just lapsed. He couldn't afford it. He was retired. He owned the home a long time ago, and his premium went from $3,500 annually to $18,000. Yeah. And even that difference of like, what was it, like $1,500 some dollars, it made a big difference where he couldn't do it. Yeah. So when he went to the California Fair Plan, they asked him to remove 10 trees.
I heard that.
Right? From PBD.
Yeah.
And so when they asked him to remove those trees, it cost him way more money to be able to remove those trees, right? And so he chose to go uninsured. When your home is free and clear, you can go bare. You are not required to have homeowners insurance. So now his life is gone. The house burned 100%. What does he do in this case?
Oh,
you know? So we have, not only do we have people taking advantage of the rents, now we're going to have investors prying on these people that can't rebuild because they just can't afford it.
They're going to have to take a buyout, you're saying?
Yeah, take a buyout, just buy the land, and that's it. They're going to have to move forward.
I mean, who has like $5 million just laying around in their bank account?
Well, somebody will. There's obviously people that do. Will. So, but to your point, it's so unknown what that's going to look like. Yeah. And I don't want to be skeptical here, but I'm not even sure what level of governing allowance is going to be allowed for that, like governing allowance, what they're going to allow to have happen until things really get sorted out. Yeah. I don't even know what they're going to allow to happen in some of these neighborhoods.
Newsom said that they can't pry, like investors can't go out there and pry on these or take advantage of these people for the next 3 months.
But
how long is it going to take you?
That's
debris is going to take how long?
Dude, that's so short in this
fire's still
timeline.
Like not even 10% contained.
That's crazy. That's so short in this timeline.
I know.
That's honestly like
that's like people like rubbing their hands together.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm just waiting.
I'm just waiting.
Oh man.
Well, I got my piggy bank right here.
Again, this just goes out with nobody understands the situation until you're going through it, and now we start going. That's why, again, that poll of figuring out how many years it's going to take to rebuild. I think, please let us know what you guys think.
Yeah.
How many years?
Yeah.
And if you're in San Diego,
Yeah, tell us
go
in the
talk to your
comments.
insurance provider. Make sure your insurance is up to date. Make sure you got
Yes.
the proper coverage. Make sure you even have insurance, because at the end of the year, every time sometimes your mortgage gets sold off to another servicer, and in between they don't redo the insurance. So please make sure that you call your insurance provider right now, that it's the beginning of the year, and say, hey, what are we looking at? I don't want to end up like LA. What's up? San Diego fire season on the way. I want to make protected.
Yeah.
And guys, I know I told you this off. We're going to tell everyone right now. We are actually going to have an insurance show, like kind of an emergency broadcast with some of our friends in insurance, talk about what is available right now, what's going to potentially change because of all this, and then some advice for homeowners who still have insurance or maybe don't have insurance and need to get it again because maybe they just said, hey, I'm going to go without it. So that conversation will be coming very soon.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to move on, guys. Our next article today is that mortgage rates fall after remarks by Fed President Waller. Now, this is kind of it's the headline, but it's really not the entire story. It wasn't because this guy said something. It's because of what the data reported said. Now, they're referencing in this article the 10-year yield, which I am always sharing with these guys. I'm, texting them screenshots. Hey, look at the price is going this way. Price is going that way. Yeah. So this is like Andy's little nerd corner for a second here. But what really happened is that mortgage rates started nosediving because of economic data.
Yeah.
So what's happening with rates now? Where are they going next? What's your prediction for looking at the end of January, beginning of February?
So we just had a good last week of rates. I mean, the pricing was good. And one of the things that, I have to remind people is that when they say rates are coming down, it's not necessarily like the rate tanked to like 0.5% or a full percent, but the pricing and what it is going to cost you to get that rate is starting to get alleviated. And what I believe and what's been happening is that I see a lot of the, inflation readings coming in, like we've been talking about, not lower, but, right in mark with what we're, expecting. So I think the Fed still has a bigger issue, controlling the labor market, that inflation isn't that big of an issue anymore. Therefore, we're able to see, those good days in pricing throughout the weeks. But I feel that as we progress into February, rates are going to slowly continue to trickle down. And then we'll see what happens when the Fed speaks, at the end of this month.
Well, may the interest rate gods hear your prayer.
Please.
It's again, data says everything.
Yeah.
It's all about the data. I used to not really understand it like that, but I'd be like, just gonna take a hunch. But data is everything, and so everything has to do with the labor market. So the stronger the labor market is, that's not broken, nor does it look like it's gonna be broken. I mean, 2 weeks ago, 200 some thousand jobs were created. Way more than expected. That took rates just boom, letting people know that, hey, you know what? Oh, more jobs, therefore they're going to be more spending, therefore inflation is going to be higher because we just keep spending it, and that's it.
And then when we got inflation readings, last week, one of them was a little bit higher. I think it was the year over year or month. Yeah, year over year. And rates started doing a little bit better. So it just shows you the difference of, what impact, rates have against, of that.
The maddening part of this is sometimes when inflation comes in hotter, rates do they go the other way. And then in this case, if it came in hotter and like, oh wait, now rates have to go down. But here's the other maddening part is your memo's bringing up the labor numbers. Yeah. Yep. And remember, this is how convenient is having a short-term memory for the market, because the Fed and whoever's reporting BLS and all that, or not, BLS, Bureau of Labor and Statistics, who's reporting all this, they very conveniently are hoping everyone's forgotten that they accidentally added 880 or 80, however many, 880,000 more jobs than were actually created. So that seems very convenient. So when you say the number 200,000, I'm like, well, was it really? Because now I don't even know. If you have to go retroactively, we actually overstated by 800,000 jobs. That's a wild miss on the monthly average. Yeah. And so you're telling me 200, my mind's thinking it's probably half that.
But you look at the numbers and they always get, readjusted every month. Every month they go back and readjust, and they're never higher. Also, they're never what they was when they first.
Also note from this article, missing terminology. For those of you keeping score at home, there was no reference of soft landing.
Yeah.
Still, because guess what? They stopped using that a long time ago. And so for those of you keeping score at home.
What about transitory?
Mortgage Heroes 3, the Fed 0. I think we said from the onset, like soft landing, get out of here with that noise. That's not happening. It's not happening.
Still not happening.
No, and I ranted last week on the show about inflation because, again, the whole speaking point comment about inflation is going down, it is not until there's a negative in front of the number. Now, we did see that in some of the categories that are measured in inflation. Yeah. Some of them had little negative handles ahead of them, like car prices I saw was one of them, gasoline was another one, but some others did not. They were actually up. Things like groceries were up still. So again, there's these nuances you have to talk about and realize that overall inflation is a big issue. But to your point, Memo, they have changed their target. The target is not inflation anymore. It is the labor market, and man, they are hooked on it.
Well, again, how do we pay a deficit if the labor market's weak?
You can't.
So that's where the Fed's teeter-tottering with the inflation and labor market. They just can't get it right.
So there were some calls for some people saying, well, shoot, the Fed, they should not have reduced the rate. They should not have done rate cuts in 24 like they did. Now looking back and saying, well, they might need to go do a rate hike to correct that. Yeah. And now you see some people saying, well, they might actually now have to do rate cuts towards the end of the year. Like, which side of the argument do you guys find yourselves on?
I find my argument on the side that the government, obviously, they have to figure this out. The debt is so high that they have to refinance these loans. So by reducing the Fed funds rate, it is a convenient tactic for them to be able to reduce what those payments are going to look like in the future. So I know that they were saying that this year we were going to have 4 rate hikes. Now it's going to 2 rate hikes.
Cuts or hikes? You're saying hikes.
Sorry. Cut hike. No.
cut.
They were going to cut the rates 4 different times. Now it's gone down to 2. And now, based on this information with, other players in the market, they're saying, maybe that's not even good for you guys. Maybe what we should have done is just done a rate hike instead.
So what do you think is most likely to happen, in your opinion?
My opinion, they're going to reduce the Fed funds rate. They're going to do it again. They're going to need to cut because they need to, again, we have a $36 trillion deficit. We need to pay that somewhere or another. When these treasury bonds are being, cashed in, we need to be able to refinance that.
Yeah, I heard there's upwards of $7 trillion that's due to be refinanced in 2025.
There you go.
Of that 37 trillion.
So imagine that. 0.25% makes a huge difference on that.
Yeah, on $7 trillion.
You know what I mean?
You got to pay the bonds and you got to pay your debt.
So those are the things that we got to consider. We got to look into. All of this is played out because we have to do it. It has to be done.
Okay, so Brian, are you on the cut side as well?
Yeah, I'm definitely cut. I mean, I'm not going to go into all that detail because Will kind of just literally laid it out perfectly. But I mean, I'm optimistic, and I want to say that we've been at this level for quite a while. Maybe we're not just going to get that sharp cut right away, but I mean, it's leading more towards cut than hikes for me.
So the projection here from Housing Wire is that we could see mortgage rates between a very wide range of 5.75 to 7.25, which we've kind of already sniffed 7.25 at the beginning of the year.
We're still there right now.
I'm sorry, guys.
We're still on there. It hasn't gone down.
I was going to say, to Brian's point earlier, is even though there might be a pricing change on the market, it's on the backside where maybe instead of having to pay to buy down your rate X amount, you're paying less to get that same rate. It has not affected the actual interest rate that's assigned to your scenario.
And I really feel that needs to get communicated more, because a lot of people just hear rates drop and it's like, well, it's the same rate. Well, it's a lot cheaper if you would have came to yesterday. I mean, it's a lot more expensive yesterday than if you would have came today.
It's still going to take a lot more downward pressure for it to actually start impacting the actual interest rate sheet. Yeah. It's affecting the cost to get interest rates, but it's going to take a lot more pressure for it to actually start marching those rates down by 1/4, 1/2, or a full percent. So the projection of it being at 5.75, I think, is really aggressive. I don't know that I agree we're going to get below 6 this year based on what we're seeing. It's January. I know it's January. Yeah. But look, if I had to make a snapshot in time and say, where would we be? I don't think we're below 6 this year.
No. I mean, on the government, hopefully we're in the 6s. But yeah, we'll see on the conventional side. But again, not only did we start off 2025 with these fires, but we started with the worst affordability issue ever.
Which I feel like we said 8 times in 2024. Here we are, another month. Oh, affordability's worse. It's kind of getting again, I said the word maddening a little bit ago. It's like some of this is just so infuriating.
Not only that, Andy, this affects everything, even new home builders. They took a big negative hit. When rates are above 7%, the builders, because of all the incentives they have to offer to make it affordable for that new homeowner, they have to reduce their profit margins.
Yeah.
And remember, the difference between builders and regular people is they see their homes as a commodity.
Yep.
Yeah. They need to sell these things out in order for new money to come in so they can continue to do what they do best, is build. And so anytime rates are above 7%, that's when builders are just, I don't want to build right now. It's too expensive. And all that affects our market, affects the data.
Well, and that's a great segue actually to our next topic today, because Wall Street thinks U.S. homes are overpriced. Now, I found this from Realtor.com, and there's a reason I specifically picked this article today, because it describes the chasm of approach like you're describing here, which is investors and developers are going to look at it with one perspective, and the homeowner and the family is going to look at it with another.
Yep.
Now, the claim here is that these groups, I'm not going to name them, but these groups are saying that prices are 20 to 35% over where they are actually valued at. Now, this is, again, nationwide. I know we often talk about the pockets of San Diego, coastal communities, the top 100 metros. There's some outliers where there's just prices held for a lot of other reasons beyond just people want to move there. Like we talk about San Diego all the time. Like people who are active duty military, they have a commensurate compensation every month for the housing cost of San Diego. So they can afford on paper still do this. So again, separate that for a second.
Yeah.
The argument here is that these properties in general could take a 20 to 35% discount before it actually hits investors' appetite for what they think values are at. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that homes are 20 to 35% overvalued right now?
Well, I mean, you look from 2020 to now, the prices, how much they've gone up. Before that, they were literally 20, 30% lower. So I think for them at that moment, it made more sense than now when they're just completely high.
Well, but they would have wanted a haircut back then too.
Yeah.
So part of it is my assumption. Let me can I use a truck analogy? There's trucks that I'm like looking for the ranch that are like $100,000. But to me, I go, that's a $70,000 truck. I'm not gonna pay $100,000 for that truck. I'll pay 70, right? So I understand the mentality. But when it was 70, I'm like, that's not a $70,000 truck. That thing's for 55. I'd pay 55 for it. So I think some of that kind of is just the behavior pattern itself of, hey, look, I need to get a haircut on this before I think it's worth my time to do chasing it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think homes are overpriced. I think
But how much
overpriced.
do you think?
I'm going to agree with that. I mean, they have the data. They've done the research, and I get it. It's supply and demand. It's simple economics. You know, when the Tesla truck was coming out, it wasn't worth $140,000, but people were paying that, right? Because there was not a lot of supply of those trucks. That truck was worth like $50,000, $60,000. Now that there's not such a demand, guess what? People are paying $70,000, $80,000 now. And that's just what it is. That's what we're in right now. You're talking about earlier, we're talking about the rent in LA, where there's not a lot of homes for rent. So why are people charging double? Because there's not enough supply. I think this is what we've been facing since 2000. We were already in a deficit of 2.5 million homes, and we continue to have them. Right now, we're like at a 6.6 to 8 million home deficit.
More units needed.
Yeah, more units needed. So anytime it's just simple economics. It's supply and demand. When you don't have enough supply, you're going to overpay for, well, the people that have it will always overpay because, hey, FOMO. FOMO.
A perfect example is like you go around San Diego, you see $1 million house and you say, is that really $1 million house? Like, it's that simple. Like, anybody could say, like, that is not $1 million house.
Yeah, especially when you're talking in 2008, like, for instance, I'm building the ADUs. I already got an appraisal that came in at 1.6. Do I really think it's 1.6? No, right?
Wow, 1.6.
Because at 3, for that square footage, which is right under 100 square feet, under 3,000, I mean, back in the day, I remember 2012, that was already selling for like 650, 800. Like, is it really? No, but that's where we're at right now because of the density and everything. It's just going to get, so I think 30, 35, yeah.
Sorry, I'm reacting that way because I didn't know the number came in at 1.6.
Yeah, 1.6, yeah.
Oh my God, really? That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, congratulations.
No, thank you. I mean, but who knows? Maybe it'll be lesser later because it is overinflated right now. And as they start building more homes, and there is more homes available, remember, right now, I checked this week, there's over 129,000 homes nationwide available. Mm-hmm. Our norm is 1 million to 1,100,000.
Yeah.
And so we remember in 2022, when we had the fewest homes available, that's where just prices of homes were skyrocketing. Well,
and so this is why I was interested in asking you this question, because I understand your position that you're like, hey, I do think homes are overinflated.
Yeah.
But do you think it's actually going to become sold for less at that. Do you think they're going to be sold for that rate too? Because I don't think they're going to be sold for that rate.
No.
I can agree. Yeah, I think homes are overinflated.
Correct.
I also don't think they're going to get sold for 30% off.
They're not. And you wouldn't have BlackRock and your Vanguards in there and getting into real estate, right? I just looked at my portfolio and I'm actually one of the investors on there. And so how is it?
Part of the problem?
There you go.
Or part of the solution?
I'm part of it. Yeah, If it was one of those, if you
when
can't
were you
beat
going to tell
them,
us, huh?
If you can't beat
When
them,
were you going to tell us?
join them, right? So, and then Andy, we're going to see even more appreciation now with these fires over how many homes are lost now?
Yeah, it was okay.
Over
So when
12,000
when it first happened, it was like
dwellings,
1,000
structures.
dwellings, and now it's over
So,
12,000.
that's what I was going to
So
say.
let's think
That's
about
nuts.
that. Let's think about that. Where are they going to go?
I mean, imagine
San Diego.
Well, yeah, San Diego. But imagine if like all of our surrounding area right here, it's like 12,000 houses just like vanish. Right now, let me put that into perspective for people who don't.
Tijuana.
Let me put that into perspective for people who don't live here. The area of Eastlake and Otay Ranch in the early 2000s added 50,000 homes.
Wow.
A quarter of those would be missing right now. That's nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Hopefully, like the
Now, there's a lot more property density in LA than there is in our little pocket of San Diego. However, I was thinking about that. I was driving in this morning, and I'm driving past all these houses. I was on Telegraph, and I'm like, there's houses on this side and neighborhoods on this side. I'm like, all of these are gone up in LA. Like, it's just demolished. There's nothing there.
How do you take all these 12,000 people and automatically put them into the rental market and say, hey, where the houses at? It's like
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Well, what starts
don't know.
happening, Brian, what's going to start happening, people are going to start rethinking if being around there is going to be the best bet.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Especially if they can there's a lot of them didn't have insurance. They're going to probably think and say, I need to move somewhere. Well, where am I going to move?
Yeah.
San Diego. I like the weather. It's still pretty
comparable here,
to
close
where I'm
enough,
at.
yeah.
Or they're going to leave wherever it's available. So wherever they're leaving, that's where the price of the homes are going to start going up. So will it come back down? I don't know. It can, and it
probably
can
dip before it
certainly.
goes right back up.
But it's like when and how? Who knows?
Well, I would say that this is making a Wall Street argument, but I say that they are probably on the buyer side. They would love to pick up places at 20 to 35% off. On the holding side, they're super happy with values right now.
Listen, I have right now. I just listened on the social media. It's open door buying houses again.
Oh, God,
Oh,
here we
wait,
go.
really?
Yeah,
Open
again.
doors back, huh?
And remember, Zillow.
Open Door was like,
You guys remember Zillow tried to get into the pretty much like the fix and flip,
Yeah,
buying properties and just kind of, and
Here we
they
go
lost.
again.
They lost a lot, right? They kind of put this information to kind of discourage people, like, oh, this is what's happening, but. Bro, we already know.
Yeah, that whole
the
plan
big
backfired on
investors.
them.
Exactly.
Their plan backfired on them. So again, dude, you with the segues today, Memo. You're killing it. We're right into the next article, which is professional fix and flip market is poised for growth in 2025.
Oh shoot!
This is not a Los Angeles fire article, but we have a lot of sentiment that has grown in the professional fix and flip market. People's sentiment about meeting the demand needs in real estate is hot right now.
Yeah.
General contractors are busy. People are building in available space they have on their land or in their yard, and I don't see an end to it. And on top of that, came across my inbox this morning, guys, all the new permits, or of the new permits that have been pulled for building, now the majority, more than 50% of them, are for multifamily. So here we go. We're going to see some sort of this sentiment spill over into actual inventory here soon. What are you guys seeing? What are you hearing?
Yeah, it's all about maximizing the space. Of course, this whole ADUs rules with HOAs not being able to supersede or create their own rules and regulations. City level also can't just put their own rules and regulations. It's all state mandatory with the ADUs, additional dwelling units for some people. I don't know that. But it's allowing you to go out there and obtain these permits much sooner and not have all this friction with these, with the architect department at these, county levels. And so it's just facilitating the process, making it more convenient for builders to build, homeowners to want to build, and encourage them to actually, bring more properties there because of our density situation. And yeah, the way to go would be to build ADUs and make them multifamily.
So Oh, go ahead.
No, what I've noticed about, working with investors is that relatively they stay in the same area. And I really appreciate that this article gave them that highlight where they're actually, reviving the community, bringing in better inventory, making the community a little bit better. And a lot of these flippers, I didn't know were part of the community boards, very invested in the community. And it makes a lot of sense because if you start hearing what the community needs, if you're able to start filling those voids, I mean, you're a value to the community as much as you're actually profiting as well and carrying a good business.
Absolutely. So I want to piggyback on that because I think something that, and again, we don't really talk about this overtly, but something that I know, again, I'll use our own neighborhood here as an example. Rolling Hills is a desirable neighborhood, and there's nowhere else to build in Rolling Hills. Except unless your lot has space to have an ADU, now you can create another unit inside this desirable neighborhood. And so where people may have been locked out because there is no resale market or the resale market is just so tiny that you actually can't buy your way into the neighborhood, the additional dwelling units is a way for people to still have accessibility to living in the desirable neighborhood, even if you don't own the primary house. And maybe your lifestyle can suit that. You're single or you're newly married, you've no kids, so there's these things where there's these situations where I think that can be very advantageous for not only the developer on that side, but think about an ADU. It's going to be brand new. So it's going to be required to have modern permitting for the utilities, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff. You're not going to get away with putting stuff in there from the 80s. Not on those those rules.
And that's what it's talking about. This here is just encouraging and what's going on with fix and flippers and fix and hold, right? We're starting to see a lot of these fix and flippers turning their, not fixing, flipping the majority of their property because it just brings, revenue in, but they're also now considered a flip and hold. So it's not that it's a different loan. What happens is you're going to obtain a fix and flip loan where you're going to put a certain amount of money down. The minimum requirement for some companies is, 20%, where we have products for 10% down only. And then there's a rehab cost. So you have to figure out what that is. Okay. And so once you figure that out, you obviously get a contractor or somebody that understands, how to rebuild the property, bring it up to, selling standards or livable standards. And once they get that budget's also considered where some investors do not provide financing for rehabbing. We have products that we do, and that's why we work with several investors. For instance, we had a client that purchased a property for $500,000. Right? Because of his experience, he's got more than 5 transactions. We're able to lend him the money. He only has to come in with 10% down. The rehab was $110,000. Okay. We were able to finance 100% of the rehab cost. So the investor only came in with $50,000. Okay.
Wow.
These he has to provide a budget of the $110,000, pretty much breakdown, demolition, windows, roof, everything. And so according to what the contractor does, they prepay for the work that's going to be completed in the beginning stage. So for instance, demolition, and let's just say that's $5,000, and then they're going to put windows at $6,000. Once the contractor's done and the inspector goes out to inspect that work's been done, then they release those funds through a draw of $11,000, depending how much work is done. So that's actually like a fund control that protects the investor and it protects the bank, because we're not just going to give it and hopefully the investor doesn't get 110,000, goes to Vegas and puts it all on red or black, right? Thinking I'm going to double my money.
Touchy subject here locally right now.
So that's some people, and we've been noticing a lot of people have been just doing a fix and flip, and then they have these loans are for 12 months. But now we've been seeing more of these contractors who are building these things like, why can't I get in the game? I have the experience. I know how to do it. I have the credit. I have everything. So we encourage them to do it. As a matter of fact, I've been working with a contractor. I won't say names, but, we've been working 3 years, and now he has 5 properties. Prior to that, he had none. He would just fix and flip for other investors. Now he has 5 properties that he's cash flowing on a monthly basis.
I know who you're talking about.
Because we were able to do what's called an exit strategy. Once he's completed the project, we do what's called a DSCR, just like the article states. And that's how we start creating that generational wealth, and how we start assisting not only our contractors, but our investors, making them understand that there's a different way how we can actually keep these properties. So I like the article.
No, and to add to Will's point, some of the investors that I work with, he went in and bought a property. He's like, I'm gonna just fix and flip it. It's all right, like whatever. And same thing, did the budget, got all his funds ready and everything. And he did what's called a feasibility study. And if you don't know what a feasibility study, it lets you know what you're able to, build on the property. It lets you know the zoning of that type of property. And if you have a contractor, do it, they're gonna let you know more or less what that build is gonna cost. After doing the feasibility study, when he closed, he realized, wow, I could develop 3 ADUs. And, he's like, well, then what does that look like if instead of me flipping the house, I do what's called the DSCR loan? So that allows him to then, pay off his existing flip and fix loan, put another loan on there that's going to allow him to either, rent it as a rental while he's going and working on what's called soft costs, getting the permits, getting all the plans and everything in order so that he could get ready to start the development. Well, in the back end, we'll be helping him set up with the construction loan so that when he has everything ready, he can utilize, that everything to be able to do his build. And what's crazy about it is that everybody looks at it like, let me just fix and flip. But a lot of people need to look into the lot size, because if you have a good enough lot, you're most likely going to be sitting on some gold, because down the line it's going to be a long-term play that is just going to profit. So I think it's really insightful that they bring this information and even speak about the DSCR loan, because a lot of people don't know that there's a loan that allows you to rent and utilize it for rentals. So I think that's really good.
I think the timing of this is really key.
Yeah.
We had already kind of talked and seen on our own sense that, hey, 2025, they're going to see a lot more ADUs being built, a lot of more multifamily. So having this kind of come up this week was like, all right, cool. A little bit of an affirmative, like, okay, we got our finger on the pulse. I know we do, but also like seeing it this way and really just... It's not really a promotion of it, but the article's kind of a promotion of it. It reads that way. It's like, hey, here's what you should do if you want to do this, and here's how you can do it. So it's definitely kind of promoting people. If they're taking the time to read this, they're being kind of nudged in that direction, and I think we're going to see a lot of this in 25.
Well, last year we spoke about this, and last year they were mentioning more of the profits for fix and flip and how a lot of investors were actually getting out of the market from it because the profits weren't there. And I want to say that the average profit was prior to was like 69,000, and it had gone down to like 58 to 62,000, which was discouraging investors. But now seeing that the average is 73,500, that's gone up. That's I have a lot of people that their rule of thumb is 50.
Yeah.
50.
50 or more.
They have 50, 50, 50, 50. And so. I mean, this is a good way. It's an encouragement. It's getting a lot of people to start thinking entrepreneurship. Not only do you need to be doing this on the side, but this can actually be one of your, principal jobs now.
And virtually speaking, you can agree or not agree, but it's easier to access funds for a fix and flip investment loan if you have the funds than if you want to go buy a regular house and live in it yourself. Even if you have the 20%. Sometimes you still might not get approved if you want to go buy a house to live in it.
Yeah, and disagree. I wouldn't disagree because it's like more of an agreeable thing. Yeah. It's the path of less resistance, right? It doesn't require what your down payment, what your income is, because it's asset driven. The asset's the collateral, and therefore everything's about mitigated risk when we're doing loans. Mm-hmm. And so when you have an asset that we know is appreciated, for instance, you bought it for $500,000. In this case, I didn't finish my other one. They bought it for $500,000, put $110,000. The value came in at $850,000. So the ARV, we have to send what's called an after repair value, has to be under 75% for the math to math, right? And so in this case, the math was mathing. It was under that 75%, and we were good. Yeah. So that leaves a 25%. Like if the investor can't make their payment, we'll take over that property and we'll put it on the market and we'll make 25% on that.
And it gets me so excited talking about that, because once we learn how to calculate the numbers and you speak to an investor like, hey, this is my deal, this is what I have, and you run the numbers like, bro, this is a deal all day. And in that moment, you have a deal. Yeah, like that's absolutely. It's basically done after that. You just got to have the money and make sure you give me all your documents.
It's hitting all the marks, meeting all the thresholds, and you're like, hey, the deal is the deal.
Exactly. And Andy, to our defense, this is something that is new to us. We just got into the fix and flip world, into the ground up construction in 2023. And the reason for that is because prior to, there was no need for us. We didn't care about that. We were super busy. So when times are changing, we have to adapt to our new climate, right? And so we become those chameleons that we want to just be adaptable. And so one of the things that we always try to figure out, since, you know, I got my license, my real estate and my MLO, my fiduciary duty is to my clients. It's to, you know, how can I help their situation and how can I help them build that generational wealth? And those are things that I'm doing. Since I have grandkids, I'm trying to figure that out, you know? And so looking at these articles, this is very refreshing news. Seeing that I was able to, you know, teach these new traits to Brian, and now, I mean, this guy's just busy with the investors. All of a sudden, it went from regular, you know, clients. Now it's we're starting to do a lot of these fix and flips. You know, Texas, Tennessee, Florida. I mean, we're going all over the place now.
Yeah.
You know, and the beauty of it is that now we're approved nationwide. We're able to assist our clients build that.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, I'm going to just tie everything you said. It's making a positive impact, like the article
Absolutely.
says. Like, it's just making that positive impact. And I think, like, you know, just what you just said gave me the goosebumps, because it's like, you know, making the money and all that, that's great. But when you help someone out and then they're like, dude, I did it. If it wasn't for you and your team, like, dude, you guys literally, like, I didn't think this could be done.
Yeah.
I'm like, inside just like literally like vibrating, because I'm like, that's exactly what I signed up for.
Yeah, it's
that
like
right there.
You
Like,
feel
I'm
like
like,
Britney,
that's
you
it.
feel like Britney Spears, huh?
Dude, I feel like going like, yes, like, let's go.
Oops, I did it again, huh?
Wow.
But that's, you know, that's the feeling you get. When, I mean, that's the feeling I get when I help somebody, and it also goes good, dude.
Well, just talking about, you know, your last transaction, went in there, fix and flip. When you went over there and you toured the property with them, you gave them the idea, like, bro, what are you going to do with this land back
like,
here?
10.5.
All of a sudden, it's like, oh, connect me. Who do you connect me so I can do a feasibility study? We had the right contact. You put them in place. Now there's a plan.
You know who did it?
know?
Our past guest, CJ.
Yeah,
There it is. So,
exactly.
Shouts out CJ.
It is super cool for me to sit here and listen to you guys talk about this, because I see it from the sideline. I see it from the side. I hear you talking. I overhear you talking about it, and I see the things you're sharing and posting, and the people you're talking to, and the deals you're working on, and it goes hand in glove with the move that was made last year.
Oh,
you know,
100%.
being able to be nationwide now is a huge deal. That's the first thing, but then also adding this tool to the tool belt is a massive change. Now, I'm not saying that to be dramatic and to just inflate what it is, but it's like you got a brand new tool in 2023, and now that tool's 2 years old and it's working all the time. And when the deal does not meet the criteria, well, it's not going to get done anyways. Yeah. But when it does, it's a deal all day long and twice on Sunday, as they say.
That's why I get to look how happy I'm.
And that's the thing, right? The numbers have to work.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, us building the ADUs in Chula Vista, you have to do the feasibility study. It's going to give you 3 exit strategies, right? It's going to give it if you want to do short-term rental, you want to do midterm, you want to do long-term, right? In my case, my exit strategy is to bring elderly care there. Mm-hmm. You know, a 5-bedroom, give them a little more comfort. You know, last of their years there, I want to make it beautiful. I want to make it a place where it's surrendered to them. It's just something where they can just be calm, enjoy, make it where family can come and visit, be happy where their parents are at, you know. And so that's my whole goal. As we move forward, we'll see how all that plays out.
Well, thank you guys for a great show today. Memo, what was the best part of the show for you today?
You know, my best part of the show is, believe it or not, I want to say my fix and flip, but it's going to be the fires. You know, I'm still even, you know, thinking about it, I get emotional thinking about the people that are going through this. You know, I still have the luxury of being able to go through my living room, my hallway, seeing all the pictures of my families. They'll never go through that again, some of these people, you know? And so just for me, knowing that there's people out there wanting to help, like Airbnb, knowing that there's people like us that want to give this information of what to do in this situation, you know? Go to Redfin. Go and get the proper assistance to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
Brian, how about you? What's your favorite part of the show
For me,
today?
it was the fix and flips. I right now, I've just been seeing the need for it, and just really just taking it all in and diving into that whole world of, like, you know, the fix and flip, hard money construction. It really just opened up a whole different vision, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot of people that can get help, and I feel that, you know, we have the resources to be able to do it now.
So
nice.
My favorite part of the show today is actually kind of forward-looking a little bit. It has to do with mortgage rates and the mortgage rate article, because I think that the 10-year yield is going to put enough pressure on mortgage-backed securities eventually that we're going to have to see some pricing change. Mm-hmm. And here's why. I think, here's why it's important to me. It's important because everyone who got sidelined in quarter 4 of 2024 might have a second crack at it in the spring.
Whoa.
If you were like, oh, I couldn't refinance in 2024 because rates were higher after the Fed started making their cuts back in like August, right? Or the rates went down right before the Fed did their first cut.
September 16th.
So now quarter four like dropped some people out of contention, and I think that they're going to get a second crack in the spring. That's my prediction. It is a prediction, but it was part of that article today about rates. So I think that they're
may the interest rate gods hear your prayer. Please, let's put it out there.
Thank you guys again for bringing it today on the show, and thank you all for watching. Remember, again, if you have missed it in previous episodes, we are now licensed in all the states in
47 states. 47,
so minus a couple.
Massachusetts, West Virginia. I forget the other one.
New York. I think New York was the other one they said.
We actually were good right there.
Was it Nebraska?
Yeah, it was, I think one of those. Anyways,
Yeah, it was Nebraska.
It's 47 states out of 50. We're going to get all 50 eventually at some point. But make sure you please connect with Brian and with Will for any intrastate deals you guys need to run by. We can do it. We're going to be happy to be assisting people this year with their purchases, refinance, DSCRs, building ADUs. We got HELOCs on deck. People are still doing cash outs to pay debts. Like, honestly, people can say what they want about the market right now. It's still very busy.
And if you want to just give me a call to chat and see how your day's going or my day's going, I mean, feel free to. I'd love to talk.
Yeah, and most importantly, put that poll out there, right? Like, tell us how long you think it's going to take to rebuild. That would be great. We want to see what people think.
Yeah. All right. Put your answer below in the comment box. Tell us how many years you think it's going to take to rebuild Palisades in Los Angeles, and we'll see what you all have to say about that. Guys, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, like this video, turn on notifications so you catch our videos every single time we drop a new one. And we'll see him again next week, right?
That's right.
You guys are going to come back next week? All right. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
See ya.